On behalf of Colorado Pera and Westerra Credit Union, welcome to our fraud prevention presentation. Colorado Pera and Westerra Credit Union are collaborating to bring you financial literacy topics that matter to your health and safety. Both organizations share a core value around the well-being of our members, and we are delighted to share this information with you. By the end of this presentation, we hope you'll be able to describe fraud, identify 3 to 5 common scams, know which tips you can apply in your life to prevent fraud, and cite the steps you should take if fraud happens to you. Have you ever received an odd email or text message and wondered if it was legitimate? Is the high-pressure fundraiser on the phone making you uncomfortable? Have you ever bought something online and wondered if you would ever see the merchandise? Any of these situations may have meant you had a brush with financial fraud. We hope the information that we share today helps you recognize the tactics fraudsters use so you can steer clear. So what is fraud? Fraud is considered intentional deception or misrepresentation to gain an illegitimate financial advantage involving theft, misuse, or manipulation of financial assets or information. Fraud is a criminal profession for some people, and over time, they adopt new technologies and find new ways to defraud people. Fraudsters use tactics to deliberately manipulate people that are convincing and sophisticated. If you've ever been the victim of fraud, you know the distress it causes. We want to equip you as best as we can in spotting red flags and steering clear of scams. It's easy to think, it won't happen to me, but it can happen to any of us. Fraudsters have numerous ways to separate people from their money, and they're getting more and more creative. Fraud attempts can come over social media, through the mail, online, from a phone call or text, and through hacks into your computer. We've grouped financial fraud into 4 main categories. Those categories are imposters, manipulative business transactions, cybercrime, and use of technology. Let's look at each of these types in more detail so they're easier to spot and easier to avoid. Imposters, or people claiming to be someone they are not, have developed creative ways of perpetrating fraud. For example, fraudsters will often pose as a fictitious or known charity in both normal times and times of natural disaster to appeal to your good nature. Scammers will also appeal to a more practical approach, sometimes posing as a telemarketer, offering to sell you a seemingly legitimate product or service that are commonly solicited over the phone. But perhaps the most notorious is the sweetheart scam, where someone uses romance as a tool to separate you from your money. Our partners at Westerra shared with us a case that they worked on a few years ago, where their fraud department received an alert for a potential elder abuse for $50,000 going to Nigeria. When we reached out to the member, Jane, she told us that she was sending a cargo shipment of medical supplies to her boyfriend, John, who is a doctor. However, these wires were going to someone named George in Florida, and Jane didn't know this person. Jane said that George was a friend of her boyfriend, John, who was helping to purchase the supplies. We informed Jane that this was a scam. She became very emotional and distraught and asked not to send anything else. The following Monday, there were multiple voicemails from her stating that she had spoken to her boyfriend, John, and that everything was fine and she wanted the credit union to send the wires. Their staff tried unsuccessfully to convince Jane that she was in the middle of a scam, and Westerra refused to send any additional wires. She then began withdrawing large amounts of cash so she could do the wires through Western Union to John, even though both law enforcement and Westerra had told her that this was a scam. Scammers know that manipulating their victims' emotions can cause them to ignore reason. Let's move to describing manipulative business transactions. These are transactions that start off seemingly perfectly legitimate, but in the end are fraudulent. One example is a deposit of a fraudulent check. Another is when overpayments or payments you were not expecting are made to you through a payment app. A scammer will then claim it was an accident and asks you to return the payment. After the repayment from your account clears, it is discovered that the original payment to your account is not valid, and it results in only your payment going through. Another common tactic is when advance fees are due ahead of receiving goods or services, but the scammer never intended to deliver those goods or services. Sometimes the merchant will make claims about a product they're selling that they know are false. A more invasive fraud is when scammers falsify documents or signatures on documents to control an account you own for a purpose you did not intend. Finally, scammers create money mule accounts by tricking people into laundering money for them. Remember Jane from the sweetheart scam? She was so entangled emotionally that once the boyfriend had depleted her account, she then became a participant in the fraud. John successfully convinced her to accept deposits of money from other victims so that she could continue to send the funds to him. In reality, the money was illegally obtained and was getting laundered through her. Even after being contacted by law enforcement 3 times, Jane refused to believe that she was in a scam. In total, Jane completed 15 different transactions through several financial organizations to John, which amounted to a loss to her of $150,000. As a result of this, Westerra unfortunately had to terminate the relationship with Jane in order to protect both her and Westerra from additional fraudulent activity. You may be hearing more and more about cybercrime in the news recently. Cybercrime is an umbrella term for all the ways criminals might use our computer or phone to illegally obtain money, information, or access. Some of the most common cybercrimes include phishing or malware. Phishing is when you are sent a legitimate-looking email that asks you to complete a necessary task by clicking a link in the email, and maybe even to verify your personal or financial information. Many people are eager to fix a problem and click the fraudulent link, not realizing that they just let criminals into their device or account. These emails might look like they're coming from trusted sources like Westerra or Pera. Be aware that most financial institutions already have your information, so they would not be asking for it. Malware is essentially a computer program that hacks your computer or mobile device for malicious intent. It can be used to steal your data, gain unauthorized access, or demand ransom payments. Fraudsters also build real-looking online shopping sites that are designed to look credible or mimic a legitimate business. They only exist to rip off unsuspecting shoppers that are looking for a deal. After all, they know that most people would jump at the chance to buy a new phone or tablet for 50% off. But if you see a deal that is too good to be true, chances are it's not a deal at all. Scammers are also using a wide variety of technology, both hardware and software, to steal your money. An example of hardware is a device called a skimmer, which is a tiny computer that is built to look like the card slots that you use every day when shopping. This device is designed to capture your credit or debit card data by fitting over card slots in ATMs, gas pumps, and checkout registers. Some of you may already be familiar with these tactics and have been able to avoid becoming a victim. As artificial intelligence, or AI, has become a widely available tool for information and productivity, criminals have also figured out how to use it to make their jobs easier. Fraudsters are using this technology to develop convincing scripts and realistic-sounding voices to make you think that the call you're receiving is legitimate. Fraudsters typically play on your emotions and create urgent situations to prevent you from thinking before you act. Now that we know what types of fraud there are out there, we can take that awareness and focus on preventing it from happening in the first place. There are 4 main categories of fraud prevention. Monitor your accounts, know the red flags, use tools to help protect your accounts, and trust your instincts. A key part of preventing fraud is to keep an eye on your accounts. Review your transactions and statements to make sure the reported transactions are yours, and report any unusual charges as soon as possible. Another important component of preventing fraud is knowing what to look for. All of the following are considered red flags. Let's talk about each one. Scammers will create anxiety for you by using a sense of urgency. You might see this as a fraudulent email that says a bill is past due and you must pay immediately or your account will be suspended. Unfamiliar phone numbers, email address, or website addresses should be looked at with skepticism. For example, the email might look entirely random or look like it's from a reputable organization but has a subtle typo. Requests for payments that are restricted to irreversible payment methods like money orders, cryptocurrency, or wires are another sign of fraud. Any transaction that doesn't look right to you may be fraud and is worth double checking. Fraudsters will use offers that sound too good to be true to entice you into acting quickly. The last red flag is a little harder to see but easy to feel. Scammers will play on your emotions to keep you from thinking logically. So, just feeling a heightened state of emotion is a fairly good sign that something is wrong and a scam is underway. There are quite a few resources that you have available at your fingertips. Tracking transactions is easier than ever by setting up and logging into your accounts online. If you have a smartphone, many financial institutions have a mobile app you can download to your phone so you can check to make sure the transactions in your account are yours. CardNav is a free app that provides real-time control and security for debit and credit cards for the co-op network of credit unions, including Westerra. Creating passwords that are easy for you to remember but hard to decipher helps to protect your accounts. Consider using a credit card for purchases instead of a debit card. In the event that your card is compromised, you haven't put the funds in your bank account at risk. The final and most important step that you can take to prevent financial fraud is to pause and give yourself time to think about the correspondence or the transaction with a critical eye. When it comes to solicitations of any kind from anywhere, be the tortoise, not the hare. Take time to ask yourself a few questions. Is this a legitimate solicitation? Are there any red flags? Am I feeling a heightened emotional state? Is this correspondence coming from a sense of urgency that seems out of place? What is the best way to find out? Don't hesitate to wait. If you suspect your account has been compromised, this is the time to act fast. Notify your financial organization as soon as possible. They can work with you to change your account and add extra layers of protection. You will want to do increased monitoring to make sure that you're reporting unauthorized transactions quickly. Because financial fraud can happen to anyone, it's a concern for everyone. Fraudsters work around the clock to find ways to part us from our money. Know your red flags, don't hesitate to wait, and keep a close eye on your financial accounts and the financial accounts of loved ones. We've covered a lot of material today. Let's just take a quick look back. Financial fraud is a deliberate deception to steal money or valuable information. Frauds and scams can reach you through lots of different channels, and there are different types. There are several types of financial fraud, including people pretending to be someone they're not, manipulative business practices, cybercrime, and using technology to steal from someone. The good news is there are several ways to prevent fraud. Keep an eye on your account transactions, use tools to help you with this, and remember the common red flags. And most importantly, Pause before you take the word of a caller, texter, emailer, or not so prince or princess charming on a dating app. If you suspect financial fraud, remember to act quickly to prevent any further damage. As a Pera member, you can set up an additional safeguard for your Pera account by logging into your account and setting up multi-factor authentication. This provides an extra layer of protection against someone accessing your account who shouldn't be. You're also welcome to visit copera.org for more resources. Thank you for joining us today and being a conscientious partner in protecting yourself from financial fraud.